welcome to Reunion 2012. There are a few things that are nicer invitations to get than to come to this group and celebrate your history at the college and celebrate the college itself. So thank you for being here. You get the second team tonight. Dan sends his greetings and apologies. He is at a wedding in Massachusetts of his effective godson, a wedding that they couldn't miss, and so he asked me to come and substitute for him, so I hope you'll bear with me. I think what we'll do is I'd like to give you my views on some highlights and lowlights and where I see the college, and then I'd be happy to take some questions and comments before we go on to step singing, which I think is going to be held here and not moved over. It's been an interesting year at Lafayette. In my experience, having been on the board now for about 20 years, I have never experienced a year that has had as many emotional highs and lows. The highs have clearly outnumbered the lows, but there have been some deep lows. And at the end, as I thought about today and thought about what I wanted to say about the state of the college, it's pretty clear to me that in many ways the college has really never been in a better position, and I'm proud to say that, and proud that we're in that position. At the same time, we have work to do. There are challenges in the country, challenges in the world that carry over to this college, and there are challenges here. Our goal is to turn out 500 or 600 young people into the world every year who are prepared to be good citizens, to contribute to their families, and to contribute to the betterment of society. And we probably have never had a better crop of students to do that. Under the leadership of Dan Weiss, under the Provost Wendy Hill, the faculty, we have never had better students. We've never had people who are contributing more to their college education, and at the same time, we know we have great challenges. We lost a student this year. So I'm going to start with some highlights. I'm going to start on with the financial side. The country, the world, this college is still recovering from the recent Great Depression. One consequence of that was that our endowment dropped from about $750 million or so down to about $500 million. That's almost real money. And what that means to us on an annual basis, in addition to having a lesser balance sheet, which is important for our debt capacity, for our attractiveness and so forth, is that the endowment is actually contributing about $7 million a year less to the operating budget. So at a time when expenses continue to go up, our payroll goes up, our insurance goes up, our benefits go up, we're actually receiving a lot less from the endowment than we used to. This is particularly relevant on the financial aid side. Everybody here is aware about the cost of college today. It's really high at about $55,000 a year. People are voting with their pocketbook. We've seen in the past several years the increase in applications to public institutions, in some cases to a point where they can't handle the applications. Clearly what that means for a place like Lafayette is that we need to continue to be perceived as producing value to the graduates and to their parents. And that requires investment, continued investment. It requires initiatives. And I'm proud to say that we are among the leaders, among the institutions as we've come through this recession. We have managed this in exemplary fashion, led by our administration. We consistently balance our budgets. We have added to faculty at a time when many are cutting. And the value to that is that we are offering our students a greater frequency of classes that are small, greater opportunities to do one-on-one research, small research projects, senior capstone projects than many other institutions. And all of that goes to the question of real value. Many will remember about 5 years ago, we decided in our strategic plan that we were going to add about 35 members, new members to the faculty. We are about halfway through that program now, having added about 18, all through additional philanthropy and managing our budgets at a time of great financial difficulty. So you should be proud that this college has not only managed well through the recession, but in fact advanced its academic position. Growth in admissions is another source of great pride. This year we increased applications by about 17%. Compared to peer institutions, we were probably double what most of them are. We increased our visitations at secondary schools from about 700 and change to over 1,000. We've invested in those kinds of things, and so while increasing applications, at the same time we were able to maintain our level of quality. We were able to increase diversity in so many ways. And as we go forward, there are few things that are more important to us than having a very strong applicant pool and one that is able to fill all of the expectations of our class. Fundraising. We hit about $50 million in new gifts this year. Participation we expect will increase by the end of the fiscal year to something just under 40% from a low of about 33 or 34%. This is a really important issue. I thank you all for that. I ask you to encourage your friends to do that. These are really important things. The Oxley Center celebration in October, many of you were here when we had the Gorbachev event. We filled Kirby Arena. It was a capstone event for so many of us. We had a Lives of Liberty lecture with Vice President Biden in April. Kirby Hall, again, was filled with students and faculty and members of the public. For me, there were a couple of highlights in that event that may not have been so obvious. The Vice President stayed a long time after his speech was done because he wanted to give students the opportunity to shake his hand and say hello. And a lot of our students got a chance to do something that they will maybe never get to do again. Another highlight, if you weren't there, was the introduction of the Vice President by the President of our student government, Caroline Lang. When we think about the quality of our student body, there were a few things that have made me as proud as listening to her introduce one of the world's leaders in a way that few people will do better. We had changes in athletics this year. Patriot League decided that it would allow merit aid in football, and our response was quick and clear. We are a member of the Patriot League. We intend to remain in the Patriot League, and even when we have some differences as to opinion, once there is a decision, it is our intent and purpose that we will continue to be a member of that league. And so we decided very quickly that we would comply. We have done that, and we are therefore beginning to offer merit aid in football going forward. Additionally, that decision required that we take a new look at our Title IX requirements, because we are now required, as the result, to look at merit aid in other sports. And I'm proud to say that we have put together a plan that will allow merit aid to be offered in some other sports, men's and women's, that will keep us compliant with Title IX and will also make us competitive in some other sports. We hosted an extremely successful conference on the future of higher education for smaller liberal arts colleges here in April. At the conference, we had about 60 college presidents on campus and about 240 attendees. I was here for most of that time and was told repeatedly by attendees, including many college presidents, that it was among the best conferences they had ever attended and the very best conference of this type. President of Williams College told me that he could not think of a better way to have Lafayette's reputation and name recognition enhanced than by this conference. It brought us real distinction. A book will follow from this. It's going to be published by the Johns Hopkins Press in the next year. All of the contributors to the conference will be published and have an article in that book. You may be aware that we have greatly increased the quality and the number and the circulation of our publications, both in admissions and other things. For example, following the Gorbachev event, we sent out summaries throughout the country. We did the same with another lecture we had here. And we invited something like 700 college officials and secondary school officials to our higher education conference in publications that truly reflect the quality and the performance of this institution. We are using all of these events as a way to enhance our name recognition and our reputation. All of that is important in terms of perception and value, and it also is important in maintaining our rankings in the various areas. Speaking of rankings, you may be aware that Bloomberg Business Weekly recently issued a report naming Lafayette 17th out of 1,248 colleges and universities in 30-year return on investment, and actually number 2 out of all of those colleges among liberal arts colleges. We are clearly beginning to get the word out that we have real value. Now, at the same time, we're all very aware of the marketing value of some of the other rankings, the most famous being U.S. News and World Report. There are lots of us who think that those rankings are not very well done and that there isn't a lot of value in them, but we also recognize that parents and students read them. So we're trying to pay attention. We put together a number of initiatives at the beginning of the year designed to improve those rankings consistent with our mission and without changing that mission. So, for example, we are focusing on alumni participation. That is a major issue. Reputation and name recognition. U.S. News solicits the opinion of college leaders throughout the country. So to the extent that we are not well known, that hurts us. Thus, our effort with respect to some of these events. There are a number of other initiatives that we've started that way, but we are mindful of these things, and I think we feel hopeful that over the next couple of years we will see those initiatives produce results. Going back to admissions for a minute, I talked about quality and diversity. I also want to talk a little bit about the financial part of this. Again, we're all aware these days of the cost of higher education. One of the results of all that is that the need for financial aid is greater than it has ever been. Historically, our endowment was able to produce a draw that was about equivalent with the amount of financial aid that we've offered. With the drop in the draw from the endowment, our need for financial aid, our payout, actually exceeds what we receive from the endowment. And so we've had to find new ways of exploring those opportunities. The good news is that we've done that. We brought the class in. Greg McDonald is here. Congratulations to him, and thank the staff for doing that. We've been able to do that, so record numbers of applications while at the same time maintaining quality and reducing our discount rate. We've improved our selectivity. All of those things are important. This year saw what might be the best year ever in terms of grants and awards to the college, whether for students, faculty, or the college as a whole. I didn't actually go back and do a historic summary, but it certainly is one of the best in memory. To give you a little bit of an idea as a measurement in terms of quality, we had 17 awards from companies and foundations made to faculty and programs totaling over $3.1 million, including a recent $800,000 grant from the Mellon Foundation as kind of a startup for our 3rd Street Arts Infusion program. We also were just notified of another $150,000 grant from the Mellon Foundation for our leadership in internationalization of our studies programs. those grants are only given to the very best programs. They are not given out very frequently, and we are very proud of them. We had 23 research-based proposals through the middle of May, totaling another $1 million, and we had at least 15 very high-level student awards, exclusive of research papers that are presented nationally, including 2 Fulbrights and another alternate Fulbright, 2 Goldwaters, 4 National Science Foundation awards, and a very prestigious Howard Hughes Foundation award. We are among the very best leaders in the country in these kinds of awards. All of these things, again, go to reputation, name recognition, rankings. We are working very hard on that, and we are doing well. It wouldn't be right, though, if I stood up here and said that everything was perfect, because it isn't. We face great challenges, not only economic challenges, not only challenges in terms of maintaining our level of quality and the perception of our quality, but certainly the lowest point of this year was just a few weeks ago on All College Day, when Everett Glenn died, and 32 of our students were arrested for excessive partying on College Hill off the campus. Although the Easton Police have not yet released the results of their investigation of the death, nor have we received the official coroner's report, we have a high degree of confidence that the death was alcohol-related. In fact, Everett's mother spoke publicly and said that he had been drinking heavily. There is significant evidence that this may have been the result of an organized but unauthorized activity, perhaps by an unauthorized group. Everett began drinking sometime early in the morning, perhaps around 4. He returned to his room sometime around 10 and was discovered unresponsive at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to spend just a minute on this and some related issues because I want to emphasize how serious and how deep the issue is. Speaking personally, one of the goals I had when I first became chair of what was then the Athletics and Student Affairs Committee, now the Student Life Committee, was a pretty simple goal. I really didn't want anybody to die on my watch. In the last 6 years, we've had 4 students die from alcohol-related deaths. This year, we had another 33 students transported to the hospital from alcohol-related issues. 2 students, in addition to Everett, were hospitalized on All College Day. Dan Weiss called me at 3:30 in the afternoon. He had just gotten to Maryland, where he and his wife were going to spend a day and a half, when he got a call from the college. Jody Fry was in the hospital with the other 2 students when Everett Glenn was wheeled in unresponsive. I got an email from my sister, who was a nurse in the hospital, who said that they just brought in a Lafayette student who had died, and 2 others were not doing well. 2 weeks earlier, we had a 290-pound athlete on a ventilator at Easton Hospital from alcohol-related issues. We've had 52 transports to the hospital this year, and about the same number last year. And these transports are serious. They often result in things like ventilation, and we worry about their lives. So we have a serious cultural issue. We're not the only place that has this. It is a societal problem, but that doesn't give us any comfort, because it is still our obligation to maintain the health of our students and to avoid having to do what Dan Weiss did, which was pick up the phone and call Everett Glenn's parents and tell them, I know you spoke to him a few hours ago on his birthday, but you're not going to speak to him anymore because he just died. We've been working on these problems for a long time. Lots of colleges have. I wish I knew what the answer to it is, but I do know that there is an institutional issue, and there are issues beyond the institution. And all I can say is that the institution is deeply committed to looking at these problems and doing our very best to do whatever we can to change the culture from a place that encourages and allows 50-some students to get transported to the hospital, that encourages students to drink heavily in their room before they go out to a party, and to encourage all of these underground events. I do want to congratulate and thank the staff for their response. I told you Dan was in Maryland when he got the call. He immediately got in the car, turned back, got everybody on the phone, and by about 6 o'clock that night, 18 of the senior staff had gathered here from Philadelphia, from the Poconos, from all over. They got to the family, they counseled the family, they put together a memorial service that evening at 10 o'clock. They counseled students. Final exams were to begin the next week. They had to deal with students who needed to extend their exam times. There were lots of logistical issues, and we did it very, very well under very difficult circumstances that none of us would want to do. Every one of us wants students to have fun, wants students to grow, want them to learn to socialize, to develop leadership skills. But we want them to graduate healthy. We want them to have good habits. We want them to be happy and have friends. And we have work to do. And so I invite you to join us in this effort to make this place and other places better in a very complicated issue. One of the other lowlights for the year was, you may have read about, we had one of our most valuable, perhaps our most valuable painting stolen from Kirby Hall of Civil Rights. It was the painting of Washington at Yorktown by Rembrandt Peale. It was stolen one night. The good news is it was found the next day in the bushes down by Fisher Dorm. There was some minor damage to the painting and some more damage to the frame, but fortunately it could be restored. We have engaged a team of investigators. We haven't yet solved all of that, but it's likely that it was student-related. I know that everybody also wants to hear a little bit about Dan's decision to end his presidency here at Lafayette next year and to become the president of Haverford. At the end of next year, Dan Weiss will have completed his 8th year at Lafayette College as president. The average tenure for colleges of our size and type today is somewhere between 5 and 7 years. So Dan will have exceeded that a little bit. And I think for him, he felt very much that he is a person who is really interested in vision and change. And he has brought great vision and change to this college. We are a lot better than we were before. There is much to be done to carry out our strategic plan, but we're at a point where Dan could leave and move on to his next job. And so he's going to do that. He's going to do it under very, very positive circumstances. He gave us just a little over a year's notice. The average, I don't know if there is such a thing as an average, but typically a president leaving a college gives notice not less than somewhere in the fall. So he gave us a little bit more notice than that. Haverford actually, so you know, was recruiting him actively, wanted him to go this year, and he actually said, I will withdraw from the search. I'm not interested in going now. Lafayette, I'm committed to Lafayette for the next year, and so if you can't wait for me, then I'm not interested in going. I would say from my perspective, I'm very appreciative that we have this notice and that we have the opportunity to have a transition that is smooth. We have a lot of initiatives underway, and some of them include the Grossman House reconstruction. You may have seen that. It's just about done. It is a beautiful facility. Will be a residential facility for those interested in global studies. It'll be ready for occupancy in the fall, but it needs programming. We are finishing a new residence at 512 March Street. That's coming along, and hopefully will be ready by September. We will begin construction of the Oxley Center for Global Studies next year. We're working on the design and location of that right now. We're working on the design of the 3rd Street Arts Campus. You may have heard we've run into a few structural problems. There happen to be limestone and some potholes in the area. We need to figure out how to deal with that, but we expect to have that design done next year and begin construction. You all know that the Greek Life Eagle project is underway and continues. That group is getting close to establishing the set of metrics that they were asked to set. Clearly, we've had some additional Greek issues this year. It would be wrong of me not to mention it. The nationals of DU and Tri Delta sorority recently have placed both of those charters in suspension because of unauthorized activities. The board and the administration will continue to look at all of these issues and try to make the appropriate decisions as we go forward, again, with the goal in mind of allowing our students to have an appropriate social life that allows them to have fun, make friends, alliances forever, grow, but live in a healthy and happy learning environment and a safe one. We have new initiatives in engineering. Some of you have heard about that. Some of you are concerned about that. You should not be concerned about it. It's all good. We have a strong engineering program today that we are working to make even better. We brought in a team, a very strong team, external team of peer reviewers, with the idea of taking a look at Lafayette's engineering program and trying to understand what it is about our program that could be absolutely unique and give our graduates the best opportunity to have real success in the world. And the result of that was really striking. First of all, they said, you've got an excellent program. And you're in a unique environment. There are only a few institutions in the country like ours which have the combination of engineering and liberal arts on a residential undergraduate campus. The opportunities to synchronize those programs better and thereby allow our students to leave with strong technical skills, but additional skills that will allow them to exceed in leadership and management is an extraordinary opportunity. We have some leadership gifts that are going to help us move that forward. We anticipate that there will be a director appointed to lead this, and we also anticipate that we will be the model for people to look at going forward. This is an extraordinary and a happy opportunity. The Quad project, you've seen the construction has begun. I'm sure you've all seen the construction in front of Watson Hall and the Acopian Engineering Center. The Quad project will mirror that look. It should be done by the fall, and it will be a striking addition to the college that will help us with recruitment, and it will also make it a wonderful place to be. So let me stop here. I'm happy to answer some questions. In so many ways, this college has never been better, and I am proud to be on the board and represent the college today. I'm never going to stand before you and tell you that I think everything is perfect if it isn't. I am very concerned, and we are all concerned about these health and safety issues. But we're going to work hard. We're going to try to set a national standard for having our students be able to grow and learn in the best way possible. And we're going to continue to work to make this college one that produces the very best graduates in the world and helps to advance and maintain the value of your degree as we go forward. I want to thank you all for your contribution to the college in every way. Being here, supporting the college financially, telling your friends and neighbors about it, recruiting students, speaking, whatever you do. Thank you. We can all be proud to be here tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any of your questions. Yes, I have a hard time seeing, so you may have to yell.
How do football scholarships concretely add to the total assets of the college? when in fact all Patriot leagues will be seeking the same athletes, and they will somehow become roughly equivalent in their football skills? Why is this an asset?
So I'll give you my version, and then Jim Dicker is here, who runs the athletic group, and I'll ask him to fix whatever I screw up. So the question is, how do merit aid scholarships in football add to the value of the college, and how does that improve our position with respect to the league, since everybody has the same scholarships in the league? And the answer to that is what the coaches will tell us. Prior to having merit aid in football, merit aid scholarships for football, our coaches were recruiting at a barbell end. They could recruit athletes who needed no help and didn't care whether they got financial help, and athletes at the other end who needed enormous amount of help. And there was a gap in the middle with people that they could recruit. We were at a disadvantage with some of our friends in the league, and we were certainly at a disadvantage with schools like the Ivy Leagues that have enormous capability. For example, we are aware of an athlete who was just recruited to play, I think it was lacrosse at Harvard, at the end of his sophomore year in high school. Aid is not an issue because Harvard has something like $32 billion in endowment. So an equal footing is, I think, the right answer to that according to the coaches. Jim, help me with whatever I missed.
No, I don't think there's much to add to that. You know, I think it's a competitive issue in terms of, you know, whether it's an asset to the college or not is one issue. I think the other issue is just to maintain the same level of play with the other schools in the league. We're all doing it. You know, we all need to do it. So I think you got it right.
If you're all not doing, you're still saying.
Well, that's right, but the answer was the league decided it was going to do it, and we had to decide whether to stay in. Next.
Question about the endowment.
Yes.
You indicated, I believe, it lost about a third of its value from 700 and change down to about 500 and change.
Correct.
Despite the recent turmoil in the markets, including today's activity, the averages, the major averages, are still within perhaps 20% of their all-time highs. Sounds, and I am in the investment business, so I do understand a little bit about this. It sounds to me like we lost disproportionately greater than just the indices. What are we doing to cause that, and what are we doing to see that it doesn't happen again?
So we've measured ourselves against a lot of other schools as well against the major indices. Our losses were within the range of colleges and universities. There were some who lost much more, some who lost a little bit less. At the end of a month or so ago, we were back to about $700 million. So the last couple of weeks have taken some away. So first of all, we have charged our investment committee and our investment advisors with looking at the entire portfolio to assess the degree of risk against the possible gains. We measure ourselves all the time against things. I would say I think we're doing okay, but not particularly great. We need to think about how to do better in that. I'm not sure if I can add anything else at this point.
Well, we have returned to that high water mark, or pretty close to it.
Pretty close to it, yep. Yep. And I would say we have changed our mix to a little bit of a safer, a little bit of a more balanced, favoring a little more safety and security over the long haul. The other thing I guess I should say is I would highlight that we've changed our formula to make sure that our draw from the endowment is not exceeding what we're really earning on it.
Yeah, this could be a problem these days. Traditionally, pension funds have been using actuarial rates of between 7% and 8% long term. If you went over 8%, the IRS would get a little upset. 7% was conservative. In a period of virtually zero interest rates and lower returns, a drawdown even for a non-pension, for a purpose such as this, drawdowns even at 5% would be, could result in principal erosion.
Yeah, we need to worry about it, and we're paying a lot of attention to it. Mitch, do you want, our CFO is here, Mitch Ween. Mitch, do you want to add anything, speak to this at all?
Just one other quick factor is during the years that Chairman Ahart mentioned that of the decline, we also, of course, continued to draw from the endowment. That was 5% each of those years. I think our decline in the fiscal year ending 08 was 4% and 18% the next year. So relative to many of our peers, actually our decline was a little bit less than many of our peers. So, but when you add the draw component into it as well, that's what had some of that relative decline.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Would
Sir.
you have any idea what percentage of the graduates this year were able to obtain employment?
Jim.
So in our career services office, we do a survey that where we gather information 6 months after graduation. So the statistics I'll cite will be the class of 2011, which we surveyed at the end of December. We have a 95% response rate from the class, so we know what most of them are doing. For that class, there were 5% 6 months after graduation who were in the still seeking category. That doesn't mean they all had jobs. It means they were either full-time employment, graduate school, and then this other category that's preparing for graduate school, part-time employment. So to break those down, about 86% were either employed or in graduate school 6 months after graduation.
So the statistics for this year are not yet available because not far enough out yet. Yes, sir.
I want to say that I'm very, very proud of this college for stuff that's happened in the last. First of all, a great thing that you just did.
No.
It's amazing to me to get a volunteer up there and speak like you spoke. Secondly, last week at the graduation here, I don't know how many people are get on the colleges and see online what happened here. You know, Gary Marshall gave us a talk. How many people saw it? And you went online. The Washington Post carried a wonderful article and said it was the best college commencement speech they'd ever seen. And so it's still online, so go back and see it because it's unbelievable.
Thank you.
You'd be proud of this college.
Thank you. Interesting little side note. So if you don't know who Gary Marshall is, you know, director and a producer, Happy Days and some other things, just did a movie called New Year's Eve, which I just watched and it was fun. So Gary Marshall had never given a commencement address before this. And he was really quite nervous, and he and his wife Barbara, who is a lovely person, former nurse, and she is in every movie of his in some little cameo role. And so he was nervous, and they came the day before, and they stayed at the Lafayette Inn, but they wanted to learn about the college, so they came in the afternoon, they walked all around Cattell Street, went to Subway to talk to the kids, see where they ate. Then they went to the ice cream place, had an ice cream cone, and his notes were on one sheet of lined paper that he ripped out of a notebook in like big purple ink. And he, as I said, he had never done that, and he was really nervous. And so when we lined up before that, Barbara walked over and she said, you know, you can't go out like this. Your hat's crooked, your tie's crooked. You got to do a lot better than this. He was very nervous. He was a terrific guy, and she was a lovely person, and they were really sincere about doing this, so it was lovely. The connection, by the way, just so you know how these things happen, there's a committee that decides sort of what the theme would be. This year they wanted to focus on the arts because of the 3rd Street project, and so we try to find out how we make contact with somebody. And Larry Raymer, our former board chair, 2 board chairs ago, lives in Los Angeles and is the former president of the Los Angeles Council on the Performing Arts, reached out and is a friend of Gary Marshall, and so Gary came for that purpose. So.
With all that preparation, he still got his hood on backwards.
He did get his hood on backward. He couldn't get it right at all. Are there other questions? Going once, twice? Then we are on to step singing, which I understand is going to be here. Dave, are you going to introduce it? Sure. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.